It's a great pleasure to be here with you this morning. I found it very interesting listening to the academic presentations that we've just heard. And I'm now going to talk to you a bit about the government's policy response on future of work. So what have we been doing over the past few years before COVID-19 happened, if anyone can remember that point? Then also what have we been doing during the pandemic, and how do we see things developing afterwards? So that's what I'm planning to cover this morning. So first of all then, before COVID-19 occurred, I think the key thing to mention is obviously in the UK, we had record levels of unemployment. We also had a labour market which was one of the most flexible in the world. And a lot of academic evidence and research has shown that there's a strong correlation between the flexibility of the UK's labour market and the fact that we were enjoying these record levels of unemployment. We also had record levels of participation as well, where we had over 72% of females engaged in the labour market in the UK for the first time. So that was great. We were making strong progress there. And real pay was also growing as well. So we saw in 2016 the introduction of the national living wage, which has increased dramatically the pay for the lowest paid workers within our economy. So that was particularly important for us. So we had, as I was saying, record levels of unemployment, and obviously productivity was an important issue as well. So then what were we doing in terms of policy, given that we had these record levels of unemployment? There was a strong focus on wanting to look at the quality of work. So we had in 2017 the Taylor Review, which has been mentioned by a previous speaker, which made 53 recommendations about what government and also industry could do to further improve the quality of work within the UK. The government accepted the vast majority of those recommendations, and that led to the creation of the Good Work Plan in 2018, where that was our plan for how we were going to deliver all of those recommendations. And also then at the last election, which now feels like a very long time ago, even though of course it wasn't in reality, the Conservative Party made quality of work a very central part of their manifesto, and they had a variety of policies featured in there about both increasing the flexibility of jobs to encourage more people with caring responsibilities into the labour market and to make their lives easier, but also to look at addressing some of the more precarious forms of work that had been developing in the gig economy. So that's what had been happening before COVID. Now, obviously, then COVID occurred, and that has led to quite an unprecedented level of response from the government. So first of all, we've seen for the first time in the UK the creation of the furlough scheme. We've also had business loans at record levels being advanced to companies to ensure that the companies could carry on operating and offering jobs within the labour market. And then also an intervention that we did through secondary legislation to enable the carrying over of annual leave. So you may or may not be familiar that under our working time regulations before COVID, you had to take 20 of your allocated days within the year in which they had been accrued. This was very much intended to be a well-being initiative, so essentially stopping people from accumulating too much leave and never taking it, because then obviously they wouldn't benefit from all of the joy that you get from annual leave. But obviously with coronavirus, it became harder for some individuals to take the leave that they were entitled to. So we facilitated this temporary measure that allows individuals during a year of coronavirus, if they've been affected, to actually carry over their annual leave, because otherwise we might have had a situation where particularly key workers working very hard in hospitals or similarly as delivery drivers might have lost out. So that was quite an important step that we took. Then finally, well, what are we doing now as we seek to build back better from COVID-19? So there's a variety of things that are underway. So you may have seen in the news about the Kickstart scheme that aims to, this is being run by the Department for Work and Pensions. It aims to enable more young people to access the labour market, because of course, one of the key challenges that COVID-19 has thrown up is that there's been high levels of unemployment as a result among younger people. So that's there for them. Then also we've been looking at how can we further increase the flexibility of the UK labour market, given that this has been one of the strengths of our labour market in the past. So we're currently consulting on 2 measures that will do this. The first is looking at banning exclusivity clauses for the lowest paid individuals. So essentially, this means that people who are earning below a certain amount can no longer be required by their employer to only have one job. They could actually have multiple jobs to enable them to boost their income, which is quite important in a time where employers are not able to offer the number of hours that perhaps they would have done in the past. Similarly, the other measure that we've been looking at, which is designed to primarily hit the more skilled end of the labour market, but could work across the piece, is something called non-compete clauses. So the idea behind this is looking at ways of preventing the misuse of these. So at the moment, employers can write non-compete clauses into contracts to say that even once someone no longer works for them, they can't compete with the company that they worked for. And it's the case that for some individuals with these, they're unable to do so for a certain period of time after they've left, but with no compensation for that. So that prevents them from starting up their own business and from actually creating more innovation within the economy. So we're currently consulting on a range of options, from banning those non-compete clauses outright to asking employers if they want to use them to actually provide compensation for the period within which those are in use. So we hope that both of those measures will inject further flexibility into the labour market at quite a difficult time. So then obviously, as we're looking at moving forward, we need to think about a variety of things. So as I've mentioned, the flexibility has been key to our success in the labour market previously. So we're very keen to extend and protect that. We also obviously want to look at how can we ensure that jobs are being created again, and also how they, making sure they're being created across the country. But then as new jobs are created, we also want to make sure that they're actually sustainable. I don't know if some of you may be familiar with the term lifeboat jobs, which can be quite handy in terms of helping people out of unemployment. But obviously what we don't want is too many of those where we then end up in a cycle where those jobs aren't sustainable. And actually when there's a further crisis, those are the first ones to be lost. So looking at how we create and ensure that the jobs being created are both stable and high quality is quite important. And then also, as you'll be aware, there's lots of research that the more high quality jobs that you have within your economy, this generally feeds through to overall productivity as well, which will obviously be quite important to us moving forward.